Welcome to the Triple Shift, the conversation for people leading at work, while caring at home, and trying to keep a life through all of it. I'm Denise Brown.
And I'm Lauren Yanoff. And here, we believe the future of work is being written in real time by working caregivers, executives, managers, and everyday professionals, balancing the triple shift of work, life, and care.
Each episode, we ask the same 3 questions in order to understand the full picture of what this really feels like, what it means for leadership, for culture, and for well-being.
So we'll start with your story.
Then we'll explore how carrying those 3 shifts change the way you see work, leadership, and/or success.
And then finally, we'll talk about what you want workplaces to do differently if they truly understood both the cost and the wisdom you gain while caring.
Our goal is simple: insight and connection. We want you to hear yourself in these stories and leave with language that helps you tell your own story, with perspective that helps you understand your story, and hope. So the weight of these triple shifts lessens.
And when you're ready for strategy and support, that's where we come in.
Okay, let's get started. I'm so happy to have our very first guest of our very first episode with us today. Alexis Seth is joining us. Thanks for being here, Alexis.
Absolutely, Denise. Thank you. It is my pleasure.
So we had a random meeting. You actually attended a workshop I was doing about coaching family caregivers, and you stayed after the workshop to ask me some questions. And so we engaged in this dialogue that was so interesting. And so you shared your story around your work and caring for your parents. And really the story that you shared was around transition, that you're really in a significant transition personally and professionally. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So the transitions are multiple. The main one was kind of discovering in this caregiving role was that I needed to step back, and I was very intentional about taking a hiatus. And on the one hand, I felt really guilty about it because I had been supporting my mom, my father, my mom and my dad, but mostly my mother and her health. But I recognized that I needed to take a step back, was way out of alignment. Or at least now reflecting, I recognize that I was out of alignment. At the time, it was just, I can't do this anymore. In doing that, what I also started to notice and observe were other places of misalignment. And, what am I doing in my career? How is this working for me? What am I passionate about? Right. I love girls lacrosse. I love coaching. And how is it that I don't get to spend more time doing that I love? So it was just, again, I'll call it a season of just recognizing misalignment. I had a mentor some time ago who would always just kind of gently offer, that it's not a bad thing. You're not right. You're not wrong. You're not good. You're not bad. It's just misalignment. And so I was in this season of noticing the misalignment and like, okay, let's get aligned because this is draining. This is hard. I don't like how it feels. It's so uncomfortable, so weighty. And so just kind of opening myself to, okay, I'm going to stop doing things this way and figure out how might I do this differently. Yeah, that was kind of the crux of it.
So what's your goal with alignment?
That's a really good question, Denise. Like I said, peace, honestly. It's what I desire is truly to have that personal peace and confidence in being able to move forward. I felt like I was just spinning in circles a lot, and I might start out down a particular path and then think, okay, I'm making progress, but then I'd see myself right back in the same place, and that was just very unsettling. So peace, progress, um, confidence, for sure. Those are definitely kind of my big goals in that resolving the misalignment.
I just have one more follow-up question. We're
Mhm.
going to go to Lauren, and that is, wonder if you could describe your caregiving hiatus and the support you're receiving around that decision and this time that really is your hiatus.
Oh, Denise, perfect segue. So there's these two buttons that I'm wearing are two organizations that I am a part of. I am going to call them life nourishing communities. One of them is the Binti Circle, which is an intergenerational support network that creates space for current and former Black daughter caregivers. And Donita, who's the founder, the caregiving workshop that you did, I found out about the workshop through them. But it is an ongoing caring community where I have found tremendous support and encouragement and, started on that path of alignment. The second pin is the Continental Societies Incorporated. It is a social and civic group of women who advance well-being for young people through programming in health, education, employment, recreation, and the arts. And from both of those groups, I mean, for sure, I'm not even, full transparency, I have my primary care physician who was awesome, who guided me to a psychiatrist because we determined that and we discovered that I was experiencing depression. And so I have a wonderful psychiatrist. I have a wonderfully faith grounded therapist. So the support on this journey of finding alignment is tremendous. But yeah, between the Continentals and the Binti Circle was really where the kind of where it all came up. One of my Continental sisters, we were at a meeting and she pulled me aside and she asked me, she looked me in my eyes and asked me, what is going on? What's going on with you? And I was like, I'm fine. I'm good. And so she waited a little while and then she came back and she looked at me and she was like, no, really, what's going on? And so then I shared with her, this is what's going on with mom. This is going on with the job. This is what's going And with all love, she looks at me and she said, I knew there was something going on because you would not be at this event in a sleeveless dress. I know you know how to clean your underarms. I know you know how to shave your underarms. And it was loving. It was encouraging. It was intentional, But what she also shared was her caregiving journey with her mom who had Alzheimer's. And so she also understood the personal things that we give up, that we don't take care of ourselves. So she saw it, right? She recognized it immediately and pulled me aside and said, I recognize you're not okay. We are not okay. So what are we going to do to help ourselves be okay? And I tell that story to any and everybody who will listen because it was not embarrassing. It was not an embarrassing moment. It was one of the most loving moments of recent months and years and on this journey. So that was the awakening. Like, okay, I gotta I got to do something. Got to do something different. And that was the impetus for my hiatus. It was in that moment. I went right back. I sent a text message to my mom and my dad, and I said, I'm not okay. I love you both. I've got to get better. And I'm on my journey to do that. And I'm going to figure it out. But I can't continue to move on in the way that I have.
Yeah, Alexis, that's such a beautiful story about somebody recognizing what was happening and just the way you described it as love.
Mhm.
To me, I like it is when somebody can just see in another human what's
Yeah.
happening and reach out in that way, and also in a humorous way.
And
Because
in
boy,
a,
do we need humor when
right.
we're in a caregiving situation, right? We need some of that humor too. That's just so beautiful, so
Yeah.
beautiful. And I so want to just acknowledge a few things from you too, because you having the power for yourself and the courage to say, I'm not okay. Because so often we're pushing through and really taking that moment to assess what your capacity was and what you needed for yourself and how you were going to move forward in that is just really for it's just really powerful.
Thank
And
you.
I just want to acknowledge that
Yeah.
because that's a big deal. Also, I hope for yourself you wrote down the words that you want from an alignment perspective of peace, confidence, and progress. Because those are such anchoring words in a journey that you're on and that you're taking. Because those can really support you.
Yeah.
I am curious too. I have a lot of questions because there is so much in your story that is just amazing. But part of why we're here is we're really wanting to acknowledge that for so many working caregivers,
Yeah.
you are working, you have a life, and then you have this added layer, this third shift that we're calling it of caregiving. So I'm curious, what does your third shift look like?
Mm.
How are you doing all of this?
So before the hiatus, it was hard. The the work was, you know, full time. The caregiving was full time because it was doctor's appointments, it was care in the home, the different ailments my mom was experiencing at the time. So, transporting with my dad, transporting her to doctor's appointments. She and I were actually living together for some time, and she was in excruciating pain at one point. And so the caregiving really permeated everything because as I'm sleeping or eating or, just doing basic life and trying to carry on a career, there were these very urgent needs and very immediate needs my mom had. So the third shift was like the fourth and the fifth because it didn't stop. Even when I thought, okay, I'm going to sleep now, there was something that she absolutely needed in the middle of the night. And so then it was, okay, let's do what we can to get her settled. It was very much the living, if you will, kind of took a back seat to the work and the caregiving. Because if I wasn't caregiving, then I was trying to work. If I wasn't working, then I was trying to caregive. I am blessed to have one of the most generous and understanding life partners. And he was even, he was even in there however he could to either help my mom or, encouraging me in my career path. Um, it was definitely overwhelming. As I was reflecting on the question, Lauren, I was like, it was desperate survival mode. It was overwhelm. And again, it was misalignment it was like, I'm just going to do what I can because I know I got to keep this job because I got to pay the bills. And I know my mom needs me and my dad needs me. So let me do what I can to resolve and to support. So, yeah, the third shift is probably more like 4 or 5 shifts because you're literally just figuring it out because something else emerges and I have to react or I'm going to adapt in some way to make sure that this need is met or this thing gets addressed. Yeah, a lot of figuring it out and a lot of survival mode. Let me just get it done. Whatever. How do I get it done?
Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people who listen to this really resonate with what you just shared because you use the word permeates. And I think that is like I could feel that when you said it.
And Lauren, the thing is, what really was interesting for me was learning how many more, and in particular, how many women are in this circumstance. We are quietly, doing this. Yeah. And, now connected with the Binti Circle in particular, I understand the resources that are available, but I'm also just shocked and awed constantly because I have a conversation with another woman and she's like, "Oh yeah, my mom's Alzheimer's, my dad's dementia, my grandma, there are so many I don't think there is a woman walking this planet older than older than 35 or 40 who doesn't find themselves in the circumstance." To the point it was kind of the that it is going on this way. I found an NIH brochure one day. I was just doing some searches and I think the title of the brochure was "Now You're a Caregiver." And I was like, so wait a minute. NIH has the knowledge that there are enough people experiencing this that they wrote a pamphlet about it. But systemically, right, how are we addressing it? It's just, okay, yeah, you're a caregiver and you're a caregiver and you're a caregiver, along with all the other things in your life. Yeah, here's a pamphlet to help you along the way. Like, but there's so many of us, right? So many of us in this experience. And yet, we've got a pamphlet.
You're like, thank you for the pamphlet.
So much.
So helpful. Yeah.
So again, grateful for organizations like the Binti Circle and finding sisterhood in the Continentals and that support. And not to downplay what our local governments and everything do, but it was just the irony that I'm learning how many people are really, really experiencing this. And, here's a pamphlet. Go for it. You can do this.
Agreed. Any resources we get are helpful, right?
Yes.
Finding them can be challenging. I think we've all experienced that. What I love that you send those, you have this circle.
Yes.
And I want to follow up on that. What other support have you found to be beneficial during this time?
Yeah. So one of the things that was truly, I don't even know a word for it, but my mother and I now have the same primary care physician. And my mom first started seeing her, and she's an amazing lady. She's, sensitive. She's no nonsense and always available. And she happened to be right in my neighborhood. And so I was like, oh, I can walk to the doctor's office. Look at that. I can get more steps going to the doctor's office. But when I initially saw her, the first visit, She did an assessment, and it's what they do for all the patients. They did a wellness assessment for your mental health. And as I was going through the assessment, I was answering honestly and authentically. And at the end of the assessment, the medical assistant took it away, and the physician came in, and she's like, "Okay, so let's talk about your mental health." And I'm like, "But this is my primary care physician. Like, this is my physical. What are we?" So that was really, really helpful in understanding that I was indeed experiencing depression. I did not recognize it. I did not know that for myself. So that was definitely a learning journey. And got connected with a psychiatrist and had that experience and had to talk through whether or not I wanted to even start using antidepressants and medications. And that was, quite frankly, that was very troubling for me. But I did. I used an antidepressant probably for about 4 or 5 months. And it was very helpful and kind of stabilizing, that spinning and just kind of getting to a floor, sleeping, just mind settling. So it was very, very helpful. And then engaging with my therapist, at least every 2 weeks and sometimes in between as things come up. So there's been the mental health and making sure that I've been taking care of that. With my employer, being clear about I'm going to need time to certainly help my mom and to be able to help myself. So I was able, and I had to apply for the FMLA. And it was fairly easy. And in conversation with my manager, they were accommodating and they did understand and facilitated that request. And so it was granted FMLA. And then just, again, having to have that honest exchange with my parents that I'm not okay. So I got to go and take care of me in order to be able to help you better. And in that process to this point, what I recognize now is that instead of helping them, I thought I had to take care of them, which I haven't yet put into practice. But it's something that I learned in this journey in order to be able to get that alignment. A lot of what I was doing, I think, and I have to go back to my mom and my dad and have that conversation. But I think what I was doing, because I was so concerned for them, was kind of displacing their relationship and how they could relate to each other to solve for the challenges that they were experiencing jointly, and then waiting for them to ask for their help as opposed to inserting myself in, quite frankly, in their relationship. They've been together longer than I've been alive, right? and so helping them to help themselves, I needed to step back. But I was very concerned for them and didn't want them to be uncomfortable. I didn't want them to be in pain. I didn't want them struggling. And so it felt like, oh, I got to take care of this. Not really the case. Learning that, understanding that, and being better at not just, setting my own boundaries, but also recognizing and supporting their boundaries and respecting their boundaries. Yeah, it's been a journey, but certainly my primary care physician, grateful for her insight. And, she said it, we're going to take care of your mental health first and then your physical health. Your physical health will follow your mental health. Okay, doc, got it. I completely
Yeah.
understand that. And yeah, these very helpful women and these groups, that sisterhood, just being able to see one another and doing that truth telling.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
is
what
important.
first of all, thank you for your vulnerability and sharing
Yeah,
your mental health story, because I think, again, that really will resonate and hopefully support others in what they may need as well while they're on a caregiving journey. I, because the mental health piece is so critical, the physical health piece is so critical. You've created a support system. You have the sisterhood, as you called it. And then also, you talked about boundaries with yourself and with your parents, and just establishing that, how it helped you as well to know what your role was, what their role
yeah,
was, and where you insert yourself. So, really, I think some clear application that others can learn from you. So, thank you so much for sharing that.
certainly.
Really, really impactful.
I'm
Thank you.
I'm curious, how do you define your relationship with your parents today?
So, again, transparency and vulnerability. So, right now, we're working on it. I am I'm still in communication with my dad, and I've kind of subordinated myself to his role as my mom's primary caregiver. I think it's hard for me to have boundaries with my mom, to be completely honest. It's very hard. I have not learned that. I have not practiced it. So I'm practicing it right now. So working with my dad, and when and I've said to him, when you need my help, you can ask me for my help. And he does. And I hear from him not just when he needs my help, but it's very clear what I can do to help him without me being like, I'm gonna go do this and I'll show up for that, and I can say to him, I'm not able to do that, but I can do this. I'm building the muscle, if you will. My next feat, my next goal is being able to reconnect with my mom and genuinely and authentically exercise those boundaries without feeling like in exercising those boundaries somehow I don't love her, because that's not what it is, but I know that that's my own confusion. And so be trying to be loving and my own person. I don't have to subordinate myself to demonstrate that love for her. But yeah, figuring that out. That's the muscle I'm working on building.
It's so interesting. You're really describing the experience of getting lost to caregiving. And someone posted a comment on LinkedIn on one of my posts about caring for her husband and how it was so much about him that it brought her to her knees.
Mm,
I thought,
mm.
oh, like n- that's that's the sacrifice that's too much. And somehow we get caught up in this idea that enduring is okay. And enduring is not a coping strategy. It is not a way to cope. It's not a way to cope. It's so interesting to hear your insights. And so I'm going to ask you our second question that we ask every episode, and here it is. You talked about carrying really 4 or 5 different shifts. So, how has carrying all these shifts changed the way that you see work, leadership, success?
So I see work as the bane of my existence. No, 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 no. The I see work, quite frankly, as everything that we do, all the things, whether it's what I do for my employer, or what I do for my family, or what I do, it's all work. It's all work. How I navigate that is prayer, meditation, reflection, trying to pause, just, okay. In terms of success, honestly, success now is, am I able to extend grace to myself and to others? Am I able to extend compassion to myself and to others? That's successful for me. Um, I- you know, if I, get the next promotion, the next job, it is just not, that kind of ambition does not resonate any longer. That's not what I am seeking. It really is being able to, yeah, be compassionate with myself, be graceful with myself and with others. Yeah, that to me is successful. Like, because now I know that we talk about the what you never know what people are dealing with. I know what I'm dealing with, and not everybody knows what I'm dealing with. So I can only imagine what others might be dealing with and how they show up from moment to moment, from day to day, from meeting to meeting, conversation to conversation. You have no idea what folks are carrying with them, what care, what burdens. So to be able to offer grace and compassion, yeah, that is most meaningful for me.
I love that. And I'll just mention one thing and then I'll toss it over to Lauren for our last question. What's interesting is grace and compassion seemed to be missing when you were lost.
I
And what
definitely couldn't extend it to myself. I couldn't. It was, I gotta go to the hospital. I gotta go to this. I gotta. Literally, that was the voice in my head. That was what I heard all the time. I gotta. It was just, and I was always in this just, my therapist called it my hamster wheel of grief. That's what my therapist called it. My hamster wheel of grief. Just going. Because I didn't want anything to happen to my mom. And oh, something is happening to my mom. Oh my gosh. Something's happening over here. Oh my gosh. Something might happen over there. Just this constant going. And yeah, grace, exactly, Denise, grace and compassion. Because I, for whatever reason, could not extend myself the grace to say, sit down, get off this hamster wheel. Like, what are you doing?
and you know what else? It's the grace and compassion to understand that you are not in a role of God, which
Mm,
means you cannot prevent someone's natural cycle of life. It's not up to you to be, for lack of a better way to describe it, the savior
yes.
that rescues.
Yes.
And what's so interesting is ultimately what you did is you saved yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, the grace and compassion are something we all need to extend more to ourselves, not just in these moments, but I think probably all of the time.
All the time.
So, you talked about building your muscle around boundaries. I think it's a muscle we have to build for ourselves all of the time.
Mhm.
Our last question is around the workplace. And I know you said there's lots of transitions, but within the workplace, I'm curious if you felt that the workplace truly understood what the triple shift of work, life, and caregiving cost and what it teaches. So that wisdom that we gain from it.
Yeah.
What would you want them to do differently?
So one of the things I think about often is, can we get rid of this 40-hour work week? Like, what? Just and let's talk more about what is it that we need to get done. Get to more of an outcome orientation, because I can get things done for sure. I can get things done. But do I have to get it done between 9 and 5 on Monday through Friday? Get that out of here. And really, again, manage the outcomes. You've got good people who are smart, who are capable. Manage for the outcomes. Ask them how they get it done. Most of the time, you don't necessarily need to see the sausage being made. Manage folks to outcomes. Make sure they have the resources. Make sure they have what they need to get things done, and let them go for it. That's one of the big ones. I think the other thing is appreciation for those skills of adaptation, conflict management, really, because the space I find myself in information technology, it's rapidly changing, of course. You figure something out. You figure out these different technologies and capabilities and solutions, and they emerge on you in moments. And similarly, caregiving emerges on you in moments. So the adaptation, the ability to adapt in real time to real stuff going on, don't discount that, right? The ability to shift in a moment is really crucial, whether it's standing in a hospital talking to a physician or a social worker, or talking to an executive, talking to a manager. Wait a minute, our external environment has shifted. What we thought was our business context is no longer. So what are we going to do, right? I mean, I'm living it right now in the government shutdown. I've been more than 20 years in federal government between contracting and as a federal employee. And okay, so now we're in the shutdown. What do I do? How do I navigate this? Same thing if I was, again, standing in a facility with my mom and this is the diagnosis and these are the things that are happening. Okay, we can go right back and forth. Definitely transferable skills. So looking at folks, yes, we need help. Yes, we need support. And get curious about what it is that we've learned through these experiences that we're having. And what is it that we can bring back into your organizations to strengthen them? Just because I'm taking leave without pay to do this thing over here, but I'm learning. I am. That it's unavoidable. I might not be thinking about that skill that I've learned or that adaptation or whatever, but the interactions with the healthcare, with healthcare organizations and our healthcare systems, that's actually transferable again into whether it's IT, health administration, right? Like certainly certifications all are really important, but those real lived experiences, don't discount what your employees are picking up as they are living and experiencing and still making progress, right, in certain circumstances. So, yeah, get rid of that work week.
I'm sure you're seeing Denise and I shake our heads in acknowledgement with you because I think that the skill piece, right? When you think about what you've taken on and you talked about adaptation, conflict management, just the communication, navigating the complexity. We talk about the 19 systems that caregivers interact with. It's an incredibly
Yes.
complex undertaking. And I'm sure
Absolutely.
you were like, I didn't know I was going to be dealing with all of these different things.
Not at
And
all.
how you have to lead and manage that is
Yes.
extraordinary.
It's extraordinary. Absolutely, Lauren. I joked one of the many discharges from skilled nursing facilities my mom had, and I joked at one time told friends, my dad and I, we're running the most unskilled nursing facility. Was the best. It is the best one, but it is the most unskilled nursing facility I've experienced. So yeah, you become social worker, medication management, dietitian, chef, all at once. And we're making it happen. We're doing it. So
On the
problem
job
solving.
training.
On the job training. Absolutely.
On the job training. Alexis, that's wonderful. So I clearly the 40-hour work week, more flexibility, managing the outcome
Mm-hmm.
versus just the productivity or the time that people are there, I think is really powerful. I know we're coming to time.
Yes.
I would be remiss though, because you talked a lot about alignment throughout this entire conversation. And how is that coming together for you? How are you feeling about the alignment in your life right now?
I'm getting there. I am. I am feeling hopeful. I'm feeling like I am making progress. I am more generous with myself in terms of grace and compassion. I'm exercising more. And like I said, I've been talking to my dad and figuring this out and working that muscle, building the muscle for the boundary setting and getting clear. So it's definitely coming together, much more hopeful.
That's
Yeah.
good. Is there anything you had to let go of to find that alignment?
Mm. I had to let go of it wasn't necessarily letting go of something, but it was recognizing that internal critic and being able to not necessarily shut it off, but quiet it and not pay as much attention. Am I a good enough daughter? Am I good enough? Am I good enough? So being able to turn that down and reminding myself that I am strategic. I am intentional. I am loving. I am affirming those things about myself. So first of all, figuring those things out, figuring out, yeah, I am strategic. I am intentional. And then reminding myself daily. So that internal critic, it's not going away. That's also I guess a protective mechanism that we humans have, and being able to quiet that critic with more truth about who I am and how I can and do show up.
I just love that. It's really this idea that we can change who we are in relationship with ourselves, with others in our life, and with our work anytime we decide it's time to make that change. Alexis, this was fabulous. And I have a feeling that our users are interested in reaching out to connect with you. So, how could they connect with you?
Sure. So I am on LinkedIn, Alexis. My last name's Seth. I'm out there. And then my email address, my I call it offline because my main email address gets bombarded with just all the things. But there's an email address I set up for just such things, just helping people or folks want to reach out. And so it's my first name, Alexis, dot by your side, BYYOURSIDE at gmail.com. So anyone's curious or want to talk more about it or learn more about the support organizations, the Binti Circle or Continentals, I am more than happy. And I think probably I talk a lot. And so I have no problem with transparency or vulnerability, folks. So always willing to connect.
And we'll include information about the Binti Circle in our show
Absolutely.
notes. Yeah.
Great.
Alexis, thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Thank you, Denise.
Alexis.
Thank you, Lauren.
That's today's conversation on the triple shift. If something resonated, share this episode with someone who's carrying a lot and could use clarity and support.
For leaders and organizations ready to build workplaces that actually work for caregivers, we'd love to help. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, Denise Brown and Lauren Yanoff, or reach out via email, lauren@theempoweredexec.com or denise@caringourway.com.
And if you're navigating your own triple shift, you're not alone and your story matters.
So please subscribe, leave a review, and tell us what you want to hear next. It genuinely shapes this show. Thank you for listening, and take care of your people as well as yourself.